So we're in a small room, but we have a big problem. And the good news is we have a room. We have a lot of people. We have a wall full of proclamations. And that's a start. It's far from where we need to be. Can you turn that feedback down a little bit? But it is a start. And that's better. I'm quite enheartened when I see some of the faces in the audience, and as I go around the country and around the world talking about lung cancer, I'm enheartened and excited because, truthfully, unbeknownst to me until a moment ago, luckily our excellent strategist and person on the public relations pulse, Richard Varg, showed me the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle that featured, of course, Terry and Lori and everyone else, and Joyce, and us all together in this family in crisis that is lung cancer. But the fact of the matter, it was on the front page of the Chronicle. We have been on the front page of the Wall Street Journal of Medicine. We have been with our collaborators and colleagues on the front page of the New York Times, finally. So lung cancer, of course, matters. Any cancer matters if you have it. It's 100% of a problem. The problem is almost everyone had lung cancer, but no one seemed to care in the past. Well, that's changed. I do think there has been a subtle but perceptible and real difference in the way the public is beginning to come around to the issue that lung cancer deserves more face time, more funding, more attention, both to prevention, tobacco control, early detection, better therapeutics, better surgical tools, better approaches, minimally invasive, et cetera. And so really I do believe, and as Allison or anyone else in this room will attest to, I am more or less the eternal optimist, but I do believe, by your very presence today, that validates that we are making progress and that we are going to change the course of many patients' lives, both tragically known today or in the future, but all for the better. I mean, we have much better drugs, and Dr. Jahan is going to talk to you about that. We have some exciting science that we and others have been trying to pioneer and trying to accelerate the discovery and accelerate the translation to the clinic. We have some tools available today, and in the few minutes I'm going to talk to you today, we'll talk about the advances we have made in both the treatment and the detection of small, eminently curable lung cancers, such that lung cancer can take its place in the sort of pantheon of cancers that are curable because they're found early, right? It can happen. So many people think of lung cancer as an inexorable death sentence that they don't even want to believe you could have early detection and curable disease, which is, ludicrous. Of course you could. And we have evidence and faith that that is not something for the future. It's not fiction. It's not science fiction. It's not even science. It's reality. Claudia Henschke was here just last week, right? It wasn't Thursday. It seems like an eternity ago. November, the fall is always busy for an academic doctor, and because it's when all the meetings are, and we've been literally traversing the country, the globe, and in China, where lung cancer is truthfully an epidemic only in its beginning stages, the perfect storm, as it were, of collision of a horrible problem, tackling it on the forefront, but also in this country, and then most recently wrapping it up with our lung cancer gala last week. Now, as I said in the little, prologue, whatever I gave there, it occurred to me as I was drafting some notes for that 7 years ago, Carolyn Clary Macy, who's not here because she is at the Fairmont preparing for our International World Lung Cancer Conference, which, by the way, FYI, I want you to put on your calendars. I know you're very organized. 2009, and you will all be alive. I'm writing it down right here for any of you who are wondering. Okay, 2009, because if Terry and I can't keep you going, well, then there's a problem, but we will. One way or the other. We will host the World Lung Cancer Galactic, Universal, Cosmic, Galaxy, Solar System. I mean, these are things I have to say to my department chair to get a raise. But anyway, the World Lung Cancer Conference, right, will be held here, right? Not in Boston, not in New York, not in some mosquito-ridden place in Houston. No, it will be in San Francisco for your pleasure and our attendance. And we'll have hopefully 10,000 international lung cancer experts coming here. Now, what does that say? That says to me, we have come a long way. We, as J&J from the beginning a decade ago, we as an overall lung cancer advocacy group, as lung cancer patients, as lung cancer professionals, as a university that now cares, a cancer center that's really risen and become a comprehensive leading cancer center in the country and in our region. And we have come a long way such that last Thursday at our gala, 600 strong in San Francisco City Hall, compared to where we were 7 years before, where Willie Brown called up and threw Carolyn and I off the steps of City Hall because we were protesting and beating the bushes for lung cancer, and we had our first lung cancer rally. And unfortunately, some of our founders who are with us then aren't here today, but I know they're listening. I know they're with us, and they would be very proud that not only at that meeting were we all inside, not outside, but the mayor introduced us, that we had many other mayors. We had Senators Hagel from Nebraska, who does have legislation on the floor of the Senate. It's all happening. It's all happening. So this is great. But you know that. And if you don't know that, you need to know that. You need to spread the gospel because, reality is 99% perception. So therefore, if we believe it, it will happen. I am a strong believer of that. In the few minutes I have, I want to talk to you a little bit about early detection because that's what we do on the local control as surgeons and as local control doctors. Lung cancer is curable. It's a genetically, genomically, molecularly complicated disease. It takes many years to develop, like many cancers. There are many reasons and etiologies, whether it's smoking-induced or smoking partially related or environmentally or just genetic or predispositions or acts of God and random epigenetic events, things happen. Genes get turned off, genes get turned on, cancer arises. Well, whatever. Until we get smart enough to realize how to do that from a blood test or how to do that from your genetic profile when you're 5 years old, we need to do the best we can today. So the best thing we can today is to say, let us use a non-invasive test, for instance, like a scan. An X-ray is a poor man's scan, and it's not bad for what it is, but it's not very effective at finding small, incidental, asymptomatic lesions that are a centimeter or less. It just isn't that good at that. Lesions that hide behind the heart, in the middle of the chest, the mediastinum, you'll never find on X-ray. And they won't have a symptom, so they won't be indicated. But the spiral CT scan studies that have been pioneered in this country by Claudia Henschke and the New York group and the LCAP studies, the original 10,000 patients they had starting 15 years ago. This is not really rocket science, and to the lay audience, I'm sure it strikes you as intuitive. Well, why not use a test that doesn't hurt, doesn't really cost a lot, has minimal radiation, we're talking low dose, non-contrast CT, bada bing, bada boom, in and out, single breath hold. The technology is here. In fact, a lot of it was invented by Doug Boyd at UCSF 20 years ago, who made the CT scanner possible. But the thing is, we have that technology, we just need to implement it. We need for us as a society and as healthcare professionals to step up to the plate and say, we don't accept the status quo. And the status quo of lung cancer is 5-year survivals of what? 15%, right? It's better than it was 40 years ago with 6%, right? When we had World War I nitrogen mustards. Well, there is progress. But that was before Terry trained, so. Yeah, so there, it's small but incremental progress. And now with newer molecular therapies and antibodies that Terry will talk to you about against angiogenesis, for the first time ever, median survival is advanced stage lung cancer over a year. Right, so that's great. But it's still incremental progress. But my point is, the 5-year survival is 15%. If you follow those patients out another 5 years, unfortunately, the overall 10-year survival of lung cancer is what? It can't get better, unfortunately. So it's going to be less. It's 5%. Now, when you look at the screen population, and that's abysmal, for the most preventable, the most fatal cancer in this country and worldwide. Lung cancer, through the evils of Machiavellian work of big tobacco, has eclipsed the hardest working virus out there, hepatitis B, that took thousands of years to become the dominant cancer killer with hepatoma. Well, big tobacco smoked that, literally. So when you follow the survival at 10 years is 5%. If you looked at the screened population, in the screened population with spiral CT, you had to have risk factors. You had to be on the planet for a while, 50 years of age. You had to have smoked a certain amount, 20 pack years, to enhance the benefit, the risk benefit. Not that there's much risk, but that the chance of our finding something that's meaningful, meaning an early cancer, not just an incidental benign speck or granuloma or nodule, right? You want to do it in a population who are at higher risk, and those are the prior smokers, 20 pack years, whatever. When you do that, and you find these early nodules, and then you have an intelligent, carefully planned out strategies for following them. We have sophisticated software technology that we can reconstruct the CT images. So rather than see a 1 centimeter thing this way and 3 months later this way, we can 3D reconstruct it, and you can see a almost imperceptible but real growth pattern. Then we know that's probably a suspect lesion. We'll follow it one more time. If it gets big enough, say 8 or 9 millimeters, a centimeter to get, or less, to get a PET scan and it's PET positive, then that should come out. And you can say, well, if we take it out and it's risky and there's a chance of misadventure, well, that may be true. It's risky just, especially in our city, going across the street because the muni drivers are bad. But the thing is, our risks are low. And I would just say this, and I want to defend the thoracic surgical cognoscenti, because we have perfected our tools and our trade down to less than 0.5% major complication for full-on lobectomies. And we're not doing the old stem-to-stern rusty chainsaw operations because it turned out that was bad for you and bad for us, right? No, we do it all through small little holes like this. You know, Dr. Theodore is torturing me every day, making it smaller and smaller. But, you know, you can't barely even get a hand in there with the scopes, bada bing, bada boom, in and out. 3 days in the hospital. You can't even get your car oil changed in that time. And you've had your successful lobectomy, less than 0.5% mortality. And when you do that, when you find a 1 centimeter lesion, you have a 92% 5-year survival. You follow that out, and you say, the sort of the naysayers about screening CT say, well, you found incidental lung cancer. Well, you know what? That cancer might not have killed you. Well, you know, lead time bias. You know what? That patient was going to die a year later because the muni would run them over, their heart attack or whatever. Well, let's just see. So if you follow those patients not for 5 years, where the lead time bias is a real issue, but for 10 years, because the curves flatten out the last 5 years. Well, okay, so 15% at 5 year unscreened, business as usual. 10 years, 5%. Well, that's a pretty low bar. If you look at the screen population, 92% 5 years, 80% 10-year survival. Lung cancer-specific mortality. I mean, come on. Again, you don't have to have a lot of higher degrees, proclamations, you know what I'm saying, to know what's right here. And cost-effectively, just don't even get me started, because the true cost of the test is not that much more than a chest X-ray. And then finally, nobody argues, right, with mammography for breast cancer screening. It does find earlier cancers. It does save lives. Where was that published? The prospective randomized phase 3 trial, like they're making us do for lung cancer, you know, CT versus X-ray, where was that published equivalent for mammography? It was published in JC? No. It was never published. It was never done. And yet no one questions screening mammography. I don't question it. You don't question it. Most importantly, who cares? Medicare. That's who doesn't question it. That's where it makes all the decisions. Who's paying for it? But anyway, we'll work that out as a society. The good news is we have the technology. We have it here today. It's been validated. And it's not just validated in this country. You know, we're so slow to get off our butts to make this happen. Look in Japan, quirky little island, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles west of here. And I talked to my thoracic surgical colleagues there, and they say, well, no, they were doing it all through these, like, 3-centimeter holes. And I said, how are you getting this 10-centimeter tumor through this 3-centimeter hole? I said, 10-centimeter tumor. He's like, we don't have that. We see a 1-centimeter tumor. Well, how do you find that? I mean, X-ray vision? I said, no, we do. We scan everybody. As Bob Dylan said, everybody must get scanned. So, you know, or was it? Well, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. And the thing is, so they go through, and they find an early little cancer, and they take it out with no muss and fuss, because they smoked like fiends throughout their CAT scan, whatever. But it's authorized, paid for by, you know, Japanese government, and by the corporations that the people work for. 85% of people, men in Japan, smoke. So there you go. And their 5-year survival of lung cancer, firstly, the thoracic surgeons, 50% of their cases are stage 1 patients. That's the way it's supposed to be. Little tools in and out, cured. You know, plus or minus a few, bad errant cells that Terry and his colleagues can mop up. But it's not the way it is here. You know, on a good day, we might see 20% early stage patients. Well, that's all about to change. You know, and to the credit of Claudia Henschke and the LCAP investigators and all the lung cancer investigators at the Mayo Clinic, elsewhere, Jim Jett, et cetera, the tides are changing. They really are. So I'm excited about that. And, we have people in the audience, many people are in the greater Bay Area, around the country and the world, who have been the benefit or seen the benefit of an early cancer, usually incidentally found, surgically removed, plus or minus chemotherapy, and cured. Cured. Lung cancer, cured. Believe it or not, those two words go together in a sentence. And that's really what we're trying to do. Not inexorably fatal, but curative. We have the technology. We have it today. It's not ridiculously expensive. In my mind, it's a non-issue. Of course, I'm a believer, so of course no one would believe us. But if you saw what we had to see every day, day in and day out, you would realize very quickly that what we're doing, business as usual, doesn't cut it, right? So, and how does anything change the world? We together will change it. Because a small group of concerted citizens is what it takes. I'm convinced we can do it. Your presence here today validates that